bring us up to date on the latest today. I mean, every day there is something new and some new sort of problem for these companies to deal with.
Absolutely. I think the aftermath of the Parkland shooting just shows how vigilant the social media companies need to be about managing their systems and making sure that they rid them of automated bots and malicious fake accounts. We're seeing that every time there is a tragic event, anytime there's any breaking news, and these malicious actors find a window to promote divisive content, to push conspiracy theories, they will take every chance they can do to get it. And the results of this week show that these social media companies haven't solved their problems yet. You have been, I know, really following closely the evolution of social media, the evolution of sentiment towards social media. It seems like the tide is really turning against Facebook, turning against Twitter.
Well, I think we like to think that the tide is turning against them. You know, the normals haven't really reacted as much to the social media as the media itself and the so-called 1%. I'm being very candid about that. Most people outside of the bubble we live in don't really care.
But that's the problem, isn't it?
I do. Whether it's a problem or it's not a problem, I can't define, but I can tell you these companies, whether it is Twitter or Facebook or any other company, is driven primarily by one motivation, that is revenue. They cannot be thinking about cleaning up their feeds first. They're thinking about revenue first. And when you start to, parse that statement, you think this is not as important to them, cleaning up their feeds or looking for trolls or looking for fake news. That's not very important, because if they start doing that, then they are declaring themselves as editorial operations, and they will come under the same rules and regulations and ethics of a media company.
What do you think the intentions are? Are the intentions
of
good or bad?
Of
the people running Facebook, the people running Twitter, and YouTube.
The intentions are to deliver growth for their shareholders. That is primarily the goal. There is no other way to think about these companies. These are publicly traded, listed companies in the business of making money. And unfortunate as it is, that is the harsh reality of these companies.
Facebook has been making changes to what it shows to advertisers. There was some new dribble about, actual versus estimated metrics. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. They've been focused on transparency for their advertisers, making sure that they tell them what's estimated and what's the actual return that they're getting from their investments. But I think that makes a great point that at the end of the day, what they're maximizing for is advertising revenue. And so that inherently makes the experience not driven for consumers, but driven for advertisers. And oftentimes the clickbait divisive material is what makes it to the top of the feed. I actually recently spoke with Roger McNamee from Elevation, who's been on the show before, and he suggests that the only way to change this fundamental issue is if Facebook were to be a subscription model, because only in that case would its incentives change.
Yeah.
But it seems highly unlikely that would ever happen.
Would that ever happen?
I don't think so. You know what? If you want a change in Facebook or Twitter or Google, actually go after their advertising operations and regulate those, not the companies themselves, but regulate how they use data, how they collect data, and what they do with it. I think doing so will lead to better policies in managing the chaos we have on social platforms.
I want to talk to you about your thoughts on the Mueller indictment, because on one hand, you could look at it and say it absolves Facebook of responsibility. The fact that, much of the ads were purchased after the election, and that these people actually used fake identities to quite masterfully circumvent, anything in the Facebook process that would have caught them.
I think when I saw the indictment, I said, wow, this is the greatest testimonial for two entities. One is Internet Research Agency being the best advertising agency in the world to actually deliver what they promised to their customers, which is Trump election, right? And the second is actually Facebook works as it promises it will work. You can hyper-target individuals and create and change their behavior. I think fundamentally, if you are going to create a system for such granular and nano-level targeting and micro-targeting, you will be a platform which is open to abuse.
Facebook Vice President on the ads team, Rob Goldman, published a series of tweets where he said he was excited about the Mueller indictment and then went on to share some facts that he feels are misunderstood about how this all worked, tweeting, "The majority of the Russian ad spend happened after the election. We shared that fact, but very few outlets have covered it because it doesn't align with the main media narrative of Trump and the election." The president then retweeted this, pointing out that even Facebook doesn't believe there was collusion. What do you think about Rob Goldman speaking, whether or not it was out of turn, speaking about this on Twitter, and not Facebook, by the way?
First of all, not out of turn. This is a very carefully thought out media strategy. This was with the blessing of media people and senior management at Facebook. There is no way they would.
That's your theory.
They would fire a contractor for speaking out of turn with a roommate. And you mean to say that they will let a senior vice president of advertising make such a fiery statement publicly without approval from the senior management? I don't think so. Good news is I don't do what you guys do, which is I'm no longer in the media business, but I think Facebook has the best media organization, best PR team, and they know how to spin the stories in their favor, and they do it very effectively. So I'm very cautious of whatever comes out of the Facebook spokespeople. That's just me.
Interesting. Well, I happen to think that they sort of shot themselves in the foot with that tweet. And obviously, they couldn't have foreseen Donald Trump retweeting it to basically say that the Mueller indictments are saying that he's absolved from any sort of Russian influence in having him win the election. But obviously, as Om said, they have a very sophisticated media strategy. Facebook is obviously trying to say that this operation was so much more sophisticated than we could have ever imagined. And its target was much broader than simply Donald Trump. It was about creating social discord in society at large. Unfortunately, by the time he got to that point, his initial tweets had already been retweeted so many times that his follow-up statement that we need to do more about this was already drowned out.